bhusana Swami
Śrī Krishna Chaitanya Mahāprabhu Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu
Śrī Radha Krishna Bhakti All glory to the Son. Glory to the Son. Glory to the Son. All glory to Śrī Namaste Saraswati So we continue with the transcendental diary. So she got power to sit in regarding our proposal for West Bengal people may come and join us without any distinction of caste and creed. The occupation will be according to one's capacity. They will be employed in cottage industry backed by spiritual advancement in life. To understand the mission of human life or relationship with God and act accordingly. The idea is that we are prepared to give all facility to maintenance of the body without sinful activities like illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication and gambling. Everyone should live peacefully in healthy condition of life with the purpose of advancing in spiritual consciousness. In this concept, we can accept anyone from any part of the world, what to speak of West Bengal, and give them shelter, food, occupation, and enlightenment. In response to Jaya Pataka's proposal for purchasing vans for mobile food distribution, he said people may come and take prasad at our temple. With traveling Sankirtan, we can distribute wherever we go, but not to the emergency spot like that. Prabhupada was especially interested in the magazine production. Who is managing Bengal Bhagavad Darshan? Raghunath Kunda, Radha Shamashunda, has come here, and he is now first initiated. He can be used for this preaching work. He'll be willing to understand the visitors in our temple have increased on account of the propaganda. Have we increased distribution of Gita Gan or not? Encouraging Jayapataka to take legal action whenever false statements are made against ISKCON, he said, I have given one statement in English, Bengali and Hindi, which I will send you. This may be published through the English and Bengali Press Trust of India, PTI. Shavananda has a film on the last New York Rath Yatra to show this in every town, city and village and present any statement in Bengali. Radha Shamashunda is coming there to help, and I will send some newspaper clippings. Go on with our regular work and chanting. You can also show our book distribution figures from Sankirtan newsletter. Prabhupada assured him that he was doing the right thing by asking so many managerial questions. You are open to inquire anything from me. There must be my consultation in everything. As an additional note, he asked, who his main acharya after departure of Tirtha Maharaj. Gopaparayana Das, one of our BBT Sanskrit editors, sent an inquiry to Harikesh Maharaj of Prabhupada regarding the second paragraph of the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam 2.2.28. The original reads, "The water of the causal ocean is differently situated than the covering water of the universe. The water that serves as covering of the universe is material, whereas the water of the causal ocean is spiritual. As such, the water covering mentioned herein is considered to be the false egoistic covering of all living entities. And the gradual process of liberation from the material coverings, one after another, as mentioned herein, is a gradual process of being liberated from false egotistic conceptions of the material gross body, and then being absorbed in the edification of the subtle body to the attainment of the pure spiritual body and the absolute realm of the kingdom of God." Jayadvaita Prabhu is currently re-editing the book and has posted this question to our BBT Sanskritists. Srila Prabhupada says that the water referred to here is the false egotism, covering egoistic covering. Is this correct? What happens to the layer of the matter elements, water? And what about text 30? Gopi Paradana made his own conjecture. The statement can be correct by adding of the words of expansion of the statement can be corrected by adding the words and expansion of the false egoistic covering. Srila Prabhupada sent a short answer with reference to your letter to Harikesh dated 21st regarding the purport, second paragraph to Bhagavatam 2.2.38. It is clear. Do not try to change anything. Any questions regarding this? So at that time, Prabhupada was present. So the devotees would ask Prabhupada questions. And we're very, very, very fortunate to have Prabhupada present at that time. You know, in the beginning, we would all write letters to Srila Prabhupada. And even when devotees wouldn't write to Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada would ask, what's happening? Why isn't he writing? You know? And, but then, as our movement grew, there came a letter from the secretary of Srila Prabhupada. Now please don't write to Srila Prabhupada anymore and try to solve your problems with the local authorities, not the temple president. In this way, Prabhupada seemed to kind of move out of the picture. Even in the beginning, we would all go, when Prabhupada came, we would all go on the morning walks with Srila Prabhupada. The whole temple practically. But then there was a selection of people who could accompany Srila Prabhupada. Then it ended up with only the GBC, the sannyasis, and ministries, and ministers like that. But then at the end, when Prabhupada was staying in Vrindavan, at the very end, well, before he left his body actually in 77, October 1477, he appeared all of a sudden in London in September, just shortly before that. I remember at that time I was preaching in Hungary, and we were preaching in the communist countries. And I called up our GBC. It was top secret, so we only could speak with our GBC about these things. And before I started saying anything, he said, "Go to London, Prabhupada is in London." So we all went to London. It was a long trip from Hungary, from Budapest to London. Anyway, and what I mentioned is before, that before leaving Budapest, the devotees gave us watermelons. We had very good watermelons in Hungary. Anyway, so we took them with us, but we didn't eat very much. We were just driving and driving and driving. It was a long trip from Budapest to London. Anyway, so when we arrived in London, I gave the watermelons to the cook, to our cook. At that time, Pavel wouldn't eat anymore, but just a little bit. The devotees continued cooking for Srila Prabhupada, even though he was not eating anything anymore. And then I sat on the front of the door. There was another devotee. He actually was a brahmachari from Israel at that time. He was sitting there keeping watch on the door. And then when the plate came out, I noticed Prabhupada had only eaten the watermelons.
Oh, anymore.
Anyway, so when we saw Srila Prabhupada in that condition in London, it was very, very shocking. Many devotees were crying, and when they saw Srila Prabhupada, they carried him down in palanquin from his room down the stairs and Bhakti bhusana and they said Prabhupada palanquin, they said on the side of the Vyasasana, he was not even sitting on the Vyasasana anymore. So, and he didn't speak anymore. He was just looking at the devotees. And he was using sunglasses, and he was very, very skinny. His hands were swollen, his feet were also swollen. So he was sitting there just watching, looking at the devotees. And so the kirtan was very, very sweet. It was not heavy metal kirtan, very, very sweet. And so then we just sat there, and I remember then all of a sudden, Tama Krishna. So Tama Krishna was, Prabhupada always called Tama Krishna when there were some special issues. And so Tama Krishna was sitting on his side, not looking only at Prabhupada, and he had a lota in his hand. Because every time Prabhupada had to spit, how say no. Anyway, so when Tama Krishna saw that Prabhupada was looking in special point, he immediately got up and made a passage. So Prabhupada could see this devotee he was looking at was Hare Krishna. Because Prabhupada had not, Hare Krishna had come to London with a lot of books that he presented to Śrī Prabhupada. At that time, the northern European devotee was in Stockholm. In Sweden. So he had come with a lot of books. At that time the BBT in Sweden produced all kinds of languages. The communist countries, also some African languages. So he was very, very pleased. And actually he mentioned at one point, he said, a different issue, he said he was Bhakti Siddhanta's most dear, I say, I would say in English the word nieto. Grandson. And Hare Krishna was actually Bhakti Siddhanta's most dear grandson. No, anyway, so then all of a sudden, after a few days, we actually didn't know what's going on there. They had taken Srila Prabhupada to the hospital because he couldn't pass urine at that time. And anyway, so actually we all got to know that in detail when we read Tama Krishna Ma's diary. The last lesson, I think the book is called. So there was more details. And when Prabhupada came back from the hospital, he was very bad. His head was very bad. So immediately decided he wanted to go back to Vrindavan. Vrindavan was his home. He always called it his home. Mumbai, they say nowadays Bombay was supposed to be his office. you know, and Mayapur was his place of sacrifice. So, anyway, so Prabhupada went back, and shortly after that, I remember Hare Krishna had a whole list of the senior devotees here who was supposed to go to Mayapur. He was Prabhupada, he was one Baba, and Vrindavan was Srila Prabhupada. So it was a long list, and I was also in that list. The first preacher one, and then I was supposed to go. And then, but when I was supposed to go, we got to know this Prabhupada had left his body already. And this was actually pretty, it was a big bomb, you know, I heard about Prabhupada's party. Everyone was shocked. I remember there was Śrī Swami, there was Hare Krishna was there, and anyway, many others. Because at that time, you know, they had the American devotees preaching in India. They used to come back sometimes and buy cars, vans, and drive them all the way from Germany, Mercedes. They drove them all the way overland, Pakistan, Afghanistan, all these places, to India, to use them for preaching, traveling preaching in India. Anyway, so Prabhupada, you know, actually stayed very short with us. And actually, you know, most of us thought that, well, Prabhupada was there. We couldn't imagine Prabhupada leaving one day. You know, even though Prabhupada was mentioned this frequently, that any, you know, we have no guarantee. You know, anyway, so, but when Prabhupada left, there was a big confusion process, and the GBC, you know, because of that, nobody knew what standard should the gurus have. The only standard by guru worship we had seen in Srila Prabhupada. And I remember right in 78, you know, right after that in Mayapur, I went to the festival, and they had huge vyasasans here. The whole temple full of vyasasans, big vyasasans. And then, of course, we know that gradually the standard was adapting to something more how do you say, more humble or whatever. And also on the altars, you know, in the beginning we used to put the pictures of the gurus right behind Srila Prabhupada, and they stayed always. And in this way the whole concept of the solar gurus started. Until I think it was 85, I don't remember. No, before. They had this big meeting, you know, senior devotee meeting in America. I was not supposed to go there, but I didn't have any money to go. Anyway, so and they invited all the GBCs. And they would tell the GBCs, you know, and the gurus, especially not the gurus, they were called the gurus. And they would tell them everything they're doing well and things that were not going well. And they ordered them to not to have more gurus in their zones. Yeah, anyway, so that it shrank more and more. And but I don't want to explain it unnecessarily here. But it just reminded me. Any questions? Yeah?
It is difficult for us or for me.
Huh?
It is difficult for me to imagine this situation as it was.
As it what?
As it was, this situation. For me, difficult to see because I was not there. But the question is, after Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, also there was a confusion when he left. After Srila Prabhupada left, there was also confusion. Why? Why it happens this way? I can't understand.
Yeah, because Prabhupada was a special, very special person. His presence was very, very dominant all over the world. You know, we knew that there was Prabhupada. You know? And even though there was not so much communication in the beginning, there was no internet, and phone calls were expensive. And anyway, Prabhupada, when there was some urgency, Prabhupada communicated with the devotees with telegram. There was not, and every now and then, especially in the very beginning, every now and then we got a tape of a class or two of Prabhupada. Or some photos, some new photos. And then the DVT established on this, organized, not the DVT, but the tape ministry organized gradually. But we were actually very more fortunate than at the time of Bhaktisiddhanta's living, because Prabhupada had given us the instructions before he left. He started training us, in the sense that he created a GBC. And directed the GBC person, trained them up before he left. Yeah. So and actually Prabhupada called them his watchdogs. I say no. Watchdogs. His watchdogs. And they were supposed to travel, travel all the time, visit the temples and see that everything was properly organized, everything was properly done, according to our standard, Vaishnava standard. Anyway, so Prabhupada saved us. Whereas when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati left, he also instructed his disciples to create what is that English again? Organizing body or something like that? Governing body. Yeah, governing body. But they wouldn't follow his instructions. Instead, they elected two, first one, it was in India, so it's common, that when the Acharya leaves, he names an Acharya, the next Acharya. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati didn't do that. That was in itself was pretty, pretty revolutionary in a sense. And so when so Prabhupada instructed us, he prepared us for his awesome Aussentia. Abwesenheit. What is it in English?
Absence.
Absence. What is absence? Yeah, first absence. So somehow ISKCON is still functioning nicely all over the world due to this system. Now I heard that you have a new GBC here now also.
Yes.
Yeah. And young GBC, very good. And because the GBCs are actually very old, and they have start selecting new GBCs, surviving them. I know it, I was there for some time. Anyway, so did you answer your question? Sure?
Yes.
So we're reading in English. This was decided by the devotees. You hardly hear any German classes anymore in Deutschland. Ne? Kaum noch deutsche Vorträge hier in Deutschland.
Kaum.
I'm sorry, I have to use this because the letters in the books are too small for me to read. So we read from the Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. Jaya Jaya Śrī Caitanya Jaya 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 Guru Jaya Jaya Śrī Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Guru. Jaya Jaya Śrī Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Guru. Sālokya Śrī Samipya Sārvabhauma Niyamana Vinanti Vinamatsahnam Janaha. Sālokya Śrī Samipya Sarupyai Kantvamapi Uta. Niyamanam Nagrinanti Vina Matsevanam Janaha. Somebody?
Sālokya Sarishti Samipya Sārupye Kattvamapi Yuta. Diyamanam Nagrinanti Vinamat Sevanam Jana.
Sārvabhauma Srishti Samipya Sārupye Tvam Ipi Uta. Diyamanam Nagrinati Vinamat Sevanam Janaha.
Sarupya Sashti Sampiya Sarupya Sashti Sampiya Sarupya Ikatvam Abhyuta Yamanam Nagrihanti Ninamatsevanam Janaha.
Sarupya Shasti Samipya Sarupya Ikattvamapyuta. Niyamanam Nagrinanti Vinamatsevanam Janaha.
Salokya Sasti Samipya Sarupya Katvam Apyuta. Diyamanam Nagrinanti Vinamatsevanam Janaha.
Salokya, the liberation of living in the same planet as the Lord. Shasti, to have opulence exactly like that of the Lord. Samipya, to associate always with the Lord. Sarupya, to achieve a body like that of the Lord. Ekatvam, to merge into the body of the Lord. Api, although, Uta, it is said, Divyamanam, being offered. Not Kriyanti, to accept. Vina, without. Mat, mind. Sevanam, service. Jana, the pure devotees. Translation. Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya concluded, even though He is offered all kinds of liberation. The pure devotee does not accept them. He is fully satisfied engaging in the service of the Lord. So that's the purpose. Continue to the next one. Avukahe mukti pada padera ara artahaya mukti pada shakti shaksha ishvara kahaya. Translation. Lord Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu replied, the word mukti pade has another meaning. Mukti pade directly refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mukti pade yandrase mukti padahaya kimva navama padartha muktira samshraya. All kinds of liberation exist under the feet of the Supreme Person of Godhead. Therefore, he is known as Mukti Pada. According to another meaning, Mukti is the nth subject, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the shelter of liberation. Purport. Lord Sri Krishna is also known as Mukunda, or he who gives transcendental bliss by offering all kinds of mukti. Srimad Bhagavatam is divided into 12 cantos, and in the 9th canto, different kinds of mukti are described. But the 10th canto is the actual center of all discussions of mukti, because the personality of God is Sri Krishna, who is the 10th subject discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam, is the exclusive subject of the 10th canto. Since all times of muktis reside at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, he may be called Mukti Pada. There's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Mukti vanyata rupam swarupena devastiti. It's a very nice explanation of what mukti means. Now it says, liberation is the permanent situation of the form of the living entity after he gives up the changeable cross in subtle material bodies. There's a very clear definition of mukti. The concept of mukti normally known when they speak about mukti is merging into the Brahman, or like what we've seen in previous verses, he was saying, I think it was the third one, that these two are abominable, merge into the Brahman or merge into the body of the Lord. But here, we have a very nice explanation what actually mukti means. So, we continue. Duyarte Krishna kahikena bhakta vriri Sārvabhauma kahayopata kahitena pari. Since I can understand Krishna according to these two meanings, Caitanya Mahāprabhu said, what point is there in changing the verse? Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya replied, I was not able to give that reading to the verse. Purport. Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya replied, I was not able to give that reading to the verse. Yatyapi tomara artaye sattikaya tatapi ansisya doshe kahana nahyaya. Although your explanation is correct, it should not be used, because there's ambiguity in the word mukti pada. Yatyapi mukti shabherahaya panchaviti Rudi vrityeka hitavu saryujhe pratiti. The word mukti refers to 5 kinds of liberation, but its direct meaning usually conveys the idea of becoming one with the Lord. Mukti sapta kahite manehaya krina trasa, bhakti sapta kahite manehaya tu lasa. The very sound of the word mukti immediately induces hate and fear. But when we say the word bhakti, we naturally feel transcendental bliss within the mind. Suniyaha Sena Prabhu Anandita Mane Bhaṭṭācārya Kaira Prabhu Dhiha Alingane. Upon hearing this explanation, the Lord began to laugh and with great pleasure immediately embraced Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya very firmly. Ye Bhaṭṭācārya Pāre Padāya Maya Vāde Tandraye Chivakya Spūra Caitanya Prasade. Indeed, the very person who had been accustomed to reading and teaching Mayavad philosophy was now even hating the word mukti. This was possible only by the mercy of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. Loha ki yavat sparshiheva nahikare tavat sparshamanike chinitinapare. As long as it does not turn iron into gold, by its touch, no one can recognize an unknown stone to be a touchstone. In Deutsch ist es, wie war das Wort? Stein des Weisen. In Spanisch ist es Piedra de toque. Bhaṭṭācārya Vaishnavata Dehi Sarvajana Prabhu ke Janira Sakkar Rajandanandana. Upon seeing transcendental Vaishnavism in Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya, everyone could understand that Lord Caitanya was none other than Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj. Kāśirishya adiyata nirachala vāsi Shāna nadhira Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya. After this incident, all the inhabitants of Jagannath Puri, headed by Kashi Mishra, came to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Se savakata avikariva vanana Sārvabhauma Kaliyaiche Bhaguda Sevana. Later I shall describe how Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya always engaged in the service of the Lord. Yaiche Paripatikare Bhiksha Nirvahana Vistariya Rigatha Kaliva Vanana. I shall also describe in full detail how Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya perfectly rendered service to Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu by offering his alms. He Mahaprabhu Lila Sārvabhauma Vijnana Ihaye Shradakari Karane Shavana Jnana Karuna Pashahaite Haya Vimochana Achire Vidaye Kamira Caitanya Chadana. If one hears with faith and love these pastimes concerning Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu's meeting with Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya, he very soon is freed from the net of speculation and fruitive activity and attains the shelter of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu's lotus feet. Śrī Rupa Raghunatha Parinanda Asha Yada Asha Caitanya Charitam Vitakaha Krishna Vasa. Praying at the lotus feet of Śrī Rupa and Śrī Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Śrī Caitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps. No, so this is a prayer of Krishnadas, the compiler of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he was undoubtedly empowered. You know, as he mentioned here, empowered by Sārvabhauma Swami and Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. Yeah, so Prabhupada was also empowered, undoubtedly. I remember when Śrīla Prabhupada was in our castle, Schloss Hellershof, Hazadura had prepared a room for Prabhupada to record his bhajans. Tonstudio, what is that? Yeah, studio. And they were all like kind of, I don't know, it was all a package of eggs. You know? Package of eggs on the walls to maintain the sound nicely. And then Hazura was playing the Danga and Prabhupada sang. And Prabhupada did a songbook, a very tiny little songbook on the side. And somebody else was playing kartas. And I heard that also sometimes when Prabhupada recording bhajans, you know, kirtans, afterwards he added the Madhya, different canons, right? He sang and then he added Madhya later on. Anyway, so I remember when he was making the recordings, he used to come out, you know, whenever he sang in bhajan, and sit there and hear it. In deep meditation, kind of, you know, and we also heard that Prabhupada loved very much to his disciples to read from his own books. And Prabhupada was sometimes surprised what he had written in his books. No? Anyway, so I just got a quote from somebody who said that Prabhupada asked the person, "Are you reading my book?" And the devotee said, yeah, sometimes. And then Prabhupada said, actually, I also read my books. And he said, because when I sit down in the morning to write my book, to write the purpose, actually Krishna is inspiring me. So actually Prabhupada didn't consider his writings his own creations. Became, I said, proud of it, you know, but because he was always assuming a very humble attitude, you know, Krishna was able to inspire him from within. Anyway, so Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya, you know, we've heard so many times the story of Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya. You know, whoever gave class this chapter here, you always tell the whole story of how Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya met Caitanya Mahāprabhu. And I remember that there's one verse, very nice verse, Caitanya Charitamrita, where Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya, after he had been enlightened and he had heard the commentary of Caitanya Mahāprabhu regarding the Vedanta Sutra, well, he was surprised, very surprised. He came to the conclusion, actually, this purport given by Caitanya Mahāprabhu will only be given by the author himself, by Krishna. You know, Vyasadeva is a Shakti Avishna, it was actually Krishna. So he had this realization and he composed 100 verses. He was a very learned personality. And after that, he composed another verse. The story goes that he wrote 2 verses. And he wanted to show them to Caitanya Mahāprabhu. But as experience went, the devotees knew he showed them the verses, the 2 verses. And the devotees knew if Caitanya Mahāprabhu read this, he would immediately kind of destroy them. So they wrote them on the wall outside the house, the 2 verses. And it actually was a fact. So as soon as he showed these verses to Caitanya Mahāprabhu, he didn't like it very much, because he had appeared as Chana avatar, a covered avatar, a covered incarnation of the Lord. And he didn't like it very much when the devotees directed themselves to him as the Supreme Person of Godhead. Anyway, so I will read these two verses. Vairāgya vidyani devakti yoga siksha tameka purusha puranaha Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu Śrī Pamburivyastamaham prapadye. Let me take shelter of the Supreme Person of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who has descended in the form of Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu to teach us real knowledge. His devotional service and detachment from whatever does not foster Krishna consciousness. He has descended because he's an ocean of transcendental mercy. Let me surrender unto his lotus feet. Kalanashtam bhakti yogam nijam yaha Pradushkartum Krishna Caitanya nama Avirvutastasya padara vinde Kandangam Kalangadam vidat chitta vringa. Let my consciousness, which is like the honeybee, take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has just now appeared as Śrī Krishna Caitanya Mahāprabhu to teach the incidents of the ancient system of devotional service to himself. This system had been lost due to the influence of time. I remember Prabhupada sometimes when he spoke about teachings of Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, and he said after the disappearance of Krishna, there started confusion. Prabhupada said that people started asking why we have to surrender to that. Why? How can he put himself in a position, ordering us to surrender to his lotus feet and this? And they started all kinds of speculations. And then after a while, Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, Krishna, especially in the last verse, where Krishna says, give up all your dharma, all your duties and surrender to me. I'll take care of the consequences. And Nasucha, don't fear, don't fear. And then Krishna again came to teach us on the basis of this verse, how to follow this verse. And he appeared as Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, as a servant, a devotee of Krishna. Actually, it's known as also covered incarnation, also Tri Yuga. He only appears 3 yugas because when he appears as a devotee, he doesn't seem to be, superficially, so it doesn't seem to be Krishna. Anyway, so Chaitanya Mahāprabhu came as, says that Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, the reason for the appearance of Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, there's some marginal reasons and there's some internal reasons. Marginal reason is he came to propagate the Yuga Dharma, the form of Sankirtan movement. And also we heard about the intimate relationship that he wanted to taste, the taste of Srimati Radharani in relation to Krishna. Anyway, so Chaitanya Mahāprabhu appears, and like it says here, this system had almost been lost due to the influence of time. The most confidential part of Vedic knowledge, Bhakti, Krishna Bhakti, had been lost. In this way, whenever there's the principles, religious get lost, like it says in Bhagavad, then Krishna himself comes to re-establish the teachings, to re-establish the parampara, and the parampara traditions. Actually, actually there's no progress regarding devotional service or the realization of the Supreme Person of Godhead unless we connect it with the Guru Parampara. We have to receive the mantra from the Guru Parampara, from the bona fide spiritual master in the cyclic succession. Just like one of our ladies gave me a book, few days ago, you know, somebody had gifted to her about Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna. I remember I read about Ramakrishna before I became a devotee. Yeah, I remember he assumed that to be Jesus, to be Krishna, to be Ram. Anyway, so I guess one is probably connected with the Guru Parampara. Like we were very fortunate that Prabhupada connected us with this Guru Parampara. Actually, this is what Prabhupada's main function, you know, that he was actually representing the Guru Parampara. Even though sometimes when Prabhupada spoke very heavy, you know, and kind of difficult to understand for people nowadays, but he never hit, he never compromised. Of course, according to Desha Kadapata, according to time, place, and circumstances, the acharyas, the real acharyas, have use everything intelligently. Like when Prabhupada came to America, and the first young people came to see him, he noticed that there were also girls coming, and they had no husbands, and they were, relating with each other, it was not proper. There was one thing that caught my attention also when I went to India the first time. In the West, you see always these boys and girls together, and maybe even umarmed. Whereas in India, we noticed that the young boys and young girls were one separate. They had young girls groups and young boys groups. Anyway, so when Srila Prabhupada saw that, this condition, he insisted that the devotees get married, properly married. And he also allowed, because he saw that the girls were not protected properly, he allowed them to also live in the ashram, which is something that is not done in India. There's only men, because the ladies are supposed to be married very soon. They always need to be protected properly. Like it says that first the father protects, and then the husband is supposed to be protected. And that's why so much importance is given to proper marriages. Like I remember Devahuti. It's mentioned in Bhagavatam, Devahuti. She just heard about it. What's the name of the husband? Kadamba. She just heard about his qualities. She didn't have a photo, or didn't see, never saw him. And because of his qualities, he felt attracted to become his wife. And then it says that the father took her to see her future husband and asked her future husband if he would accept her as a wife. Nowadays there's so much confusion. And in the West especially, they say this is forced marriage, something.
Arranged marriage.
I noticed we have a big community, Indian community in Panama. And normally what they do is they have a big free zone, business zone. And so many rich families, Vaishya families, they send their young sons to Panama to do their business, to do something. And many of these are Sinjis. Sinjis means they're also Vaishnavas, devotees of Krishna. And so when they get to a certain age, they're called by their parents to India and to get married to a wife that they have selected. And when they return to Panama, it's amazing how these young ladies cooperate with them. And because they're devotees, they come to the temple and they also come, they also become devotees like that. Anyway, this is the system. This was the system. And then in the West, that system was actually also present. Yeah. But in due to the influence of Kali Yuga, things have degraded so much. Just like it said, this Kali Yuga is compared to an ocean of falls. Ego Mahaguna. But there's one special quality in the essential Kali. The Ego Mahaguna. This is the chanting of the holy name. That will save us. Actually, this, Caitanya Mahāprabhu, like it says, it revived the devotional service. The pure devotional service had been lost in due course. So he re-established. And also another thing is, he also took initiation in our Sampradaya. Just to give an example. Even though Caitanya Mahāprabhu is the Supreme Person of God, so he doesn't actually need Guru. But as he came as a devotee, and an Acharya, he was given example of many things. Yeah, but anyway, so coming back to the point, so Śrīla Prabhupada also made some, arrangement, according to time, place, and circumstances.
Adjustments.
Huh?
Adjustment.
That's it. Like I always don't speak English anymore. Anyway, so maybe you have any questions? Unless you have questions, I continue. Oh, there was a purport. Because I didn't have any purpose, I just read the verse. So Prabhupada says here, purport. As Lord Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita 4:7, Yada yada ahidaramasya dhyani paraparata, and yudana madanamasya tatatmanam shritanam laham. Whenever and wherever there's a decline in religious practice or descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. This is also the case with Caitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu appeared in this world as a disguised incarnation of Krishna, but his appearance is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, the Mahabharata, and other Vedic scriptures. He appeared in order to teach the fallen souls in this material world. For in this age of Kali, almost everyone has become attached to fruitive and ritualistic activities and mental speculation. Consequently, there was great need to revive the system of devotional service. The Lord himself personally came down disguised as a devotee so that the fallen populace might take advantage of the Lord's example. At the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna advised complete surrender unto him, promising all protection to his devotee. Unfortunately, people are so fallen that they cannot accept the instructions of Lord Krishna. Therefore, Krishna returned with the same mission, but he executed it in a different way. As Lord Śrī Krishna, the Supreme Paṭṭācārya, he ordered us to surrender unto himself. But as Lord Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu, he taught us how to surrender to Krishna. Therefore, he is praised by the Goswamis. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate. Lord Śrī Krishna is certainly the personality of Godhead, but he is not as magnanimous as Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. And who's more magnanimous than Caitanya Mahāprabhu? Nityananda. But he is not. Lord Krishna simply gave orders for one to become his devotee, Manmana Bhava Bhakta. But Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu actually taught the process of Krishna consciousness. If one wants to become a devotee of Krishna, he must first take shelter of the lotus feet of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu, following in the footsteps of Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya or other exalted devotees. Whose original identity, you mentioned that in your class, Or Sārvabhauma?
It's Vrihaspati.
Brihaspati.
Any questions? Because I already spoke about this. Huh? Yeah?
We read the verse where Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu says that it is not allowed to change even
Yes.
one word, you know, in the Holy Scripture.
Mm-hmm.
It's not allowed. So I noticed that actually in some temples when they bow down before Tulasi they say not Krishna they say Krishna Bhakti instead of Vishnu Bhakti, like Srila Prabhupada taught us. So is it
You have a
Same
reference
case.
where Prabhupada said that?
Yes. I mean, he wrote the letter to Govinda Dasi, how the Tulasi and
Ah, yeah.
Hani should be worshipped, and this was one of the prayer which
Ah, yeah.
he mentioned.
I know.
And
I learned it from the very beginning by Vishnu, with Vishnu.
Yes, like and
How was it, Vishnu or Krishna?
yes, Vishnu.
Vishnu, yes.
And this is okay when there's some.
You want to say something with regards to this?
Yeah, well, there is a reference in the, no, there's a clear reference in the Satya Sadipika, which is the handbook for Vaishnava rituals which you follow in ISKCON. And there, Gopal Bhatta Swami is quoting a reference from the Puranas, I think it's Padma Purana, where he says, only regarding the holy name of the Lord, if there is Narayan, you can change it into Krishna. You can change it in another name of the same person.
Yes.
The other words not, only regarding the name. So when it is Vishnu, you can change it to Krishna or into Narayan, but not into something else. There is no fault in that, and it's given by the reference of the Padma Purana, only regarding the name. It's there.
Okay, thank you very much. You want to make another comment regarding this?
No.
Last purpose? No?
That was good.
Edui Shukka Bhakta Kante Ratnahara Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya Dakha Vidyakara Vadhyakara. These two verses, composed by Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya, will always declare his name and fame as loudly as a pounding drum, for they have become pearl necklaces around the necks of all devotees. Which two verses?
You already recited these two verses, Maharaj.
Huh?
Yeah, you already recited these two verses where Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya is glorifying Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu.
Vairāgi Vidya
I'm not so sure.
Vairāgi Vidya is Bhakti Yoga. Shastra Meta Bhusana is one under the other.
Yeah, okay. Because this verse was long before these verses now. And it was 245, 270. Edui Shukka Bhakta Kanta Ratnahara Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya Dakha Vidyakara. These two verses, Sārvabhauma Hairaka Mukha Bhakta Ekatana Mahāprabhu Srivahina Nahijanihana. Indeed, Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya became an unalloyed devotee of Caitanya Mahāprabhu. He did not know anything but the service of the Lord. Śrī Caitanya Sakshi Sutta Gunadana Eda Dhyana Ejapalana Enama. The Bhattacārya always chanted the holy name of Śrī Krishna Chaitanya, son of Manasachi, and reservoir of all good qualities. Indeed, chanting the holy names became his meditation. Yes, this is an example for you. Ekadina Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya Namaskara Kadishloka Padite Mahila. One day Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya came before Caitanya Mahāprabhu and after offering obeisances began to recite a verse. Bhagavate Radhamma Savira Shoka Pandira Ahira Shoka Shesha Duriya Kshara Pata Bhiraya. He began to quote one of Lord Brahma's prayers from Śrīmad Bhagavatam, but he changed 2 syllables at the end of the verse. Tate lukam tam samavik shama tate lukam tam samavik shama kunjana vatma vitam bhagam virvak vidurivina vidadam namaste jivetayo bhakti bhusana. The Bhaṭṭācārya recited, one who seeks your compassion and thus tolerates all kinds of adverse conditions due to the karma of his past deeds, who engages always in your devotional service with his mind, words and body, and who always offers obeisances unto you, is certainly a bona fide candidate for becoming your unalloyed devotee. Purport. When reciting this verse from Śrīmad Bhagavatam 10:14-8, Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya changed the literal reading from Mukti Pade to Bhakti Pade. Mukti means liberation, and merging into the impersonal Brahman effulgence. Bhakti means rendering transcendental service unto the Supreme Person of Godhead. Because of having developed pure devotional service, the Bhaṭṭācārya did not like the word Mukti Pade, which refers to the impersonal Brahman feature of the Lord. However, he was not authorized to change a word in Śrīmad Bhagavatam. As Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu will explain, although the Bhaṭṭācārya changed the word, in his devotional ecstasy, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu did not approve of it.
Which verse now, Maharaj?
Just a minute, just a minute. Actually, this is a mistake here. I went back, I don't know how I got there. I was reading verse 261. Sorry for that. Let's get back. Actually, we came to the end of the chapter. Yeah, anyway, any more comments, questions? Hare Krishna. So we end the class. Thank you very much for attending. Hare Krishna. And I also want to say goodbye because I'm leaving. And yeah. Vajendra Kumar is coming and picking me up. Śrīla Prabhupada ki?
Bhakti bhusana Swami.
Yeah.